Welcome to Naveen Tech Hub.
When you launch a basic cloud server, its memory is entirely temporary. The moment you terminate that instance, the local storage disappears, taking all your data with it into the void. To keep your data safe, you need an independent storage unit. Amazon Elastic Block Store, or EBS, provides persistent virtual hard drives that attach directly to your instances and outlive them. Today, we will step through exactly how to set this up. We are going to select a storage tier, match our network's geographic boundaries, attach the drive to a live server, and secure it with an incremental backup. Mastering this process elevates your setup from a disposable testing sandbox to a resilient, production-ready environment capable of holding permanent enterprise data. Your first decision when provisioning EBS is choosing the underlying hardware architecture. You have two main paths: high-performance solid-state drives and cost-effective hard disk drives. Solid-state drives handle high volumes of small, rapid transactions. The GP3 type is your default choice for general workloads, while IO2 is built specifically for mission-critical databases that demand extreme input-output operations per second. Hard disk drives prioritize massive sequential throughput. Tiers like ST1 are excellent for big data processing or log analysis, but AWS explicitly restricts them from being used as the primary boot drive for a server. To reach the highest performance ceilings of those SSDs, your virtual machine must be an EBS-optimized EC2 instance, which guarantees dedicated bandwidth between the server and the storage. Once you choose the drive type, you must decide exactly where to put it. This brings us to the strict geographic boundaries of AWS availability zones. Before creating a volume, open your EC2 dashboard and select your running instance, and check the Networking tab. You need to identify the exact availability zone it occupies, like US East 1A. EBS volumes rely on physical hardware located in specific data centers. If you spin up a volume in a different availability zone than your server, the two components cannot communicate. They must exist in the exact same facility to connect. Let's put this into practice. Navigate to the Elastic Block Store console, click Volumes, and begin the creation sequence. Select GP3 from the Volume Type menu and set the baseline storage capacity to 100 GB. Now go to the Availability Zone dropdown. Select the exact same zone you identified in your EC2 dashboard. Click Create. Within a few moments, the volume status will switch to Available. Select it, open the Actions menu, and choose Attach Volume. A drop-down menu will appear showing the active servers in that specific zone. Select your target EC2 instance. AWS will prompt you for a device name, such as /dev/SDF. This is the identifier your operating system will use to recognize binning hardware, so specify it here and finalize the attachment. Switch back to your EC2 instance's Storage tab. You will now see two distinct volumes marked In Use. You have successfully expanded the storage capacity of a running server without powering it down or touching a physical drive bay. Now that the drive is attached, we need to ensure it survives instance termination. This requires understanding the AWS Delete on Termination flag. By default, the initial boot volume created alongside an EC2 instance is set to be destroyed the moment you terminate that server. However, secondary EBS volumes that you manually attach later default to persisting independently. You can verify this safety net by selecting the volume in your EC2 storage properties and checking the configuration details. You want to see Delete on Termination explicitly set to No. As your application generates more data, that 100 GB will eventually fill up. Instead of provisioning a second drive, you can use the Elastic Volumes feature. Elastic Volumes allow you to increase the capacity or adjust the performance of an existing drive on the fly. You specify a larger size, and the drive scales up while remaining fully operational, avoiding complex migrations and server downtime entirely. While EBS protects against instance failure, we still need disaster recovery for the data itself. For this, AWS offers EBS Snapshots, a tool to clone your volume's contents into Amazon S3. Unlike traditional file-by-file backups, a snapshot is a precise point-in-time image of the underlying storage blocks. Looking at this technical diagram showing snapshot mechanics, you can see that the very first snapshot you take captures the entire state of the volume. If you have 10 GB of data, Snapshot A copies all 10 gigabytes into storage. The efficiency comes from the incremental mechanic. When you add 4 gigabytes of new data and take Snapshot E, the system ignores the original data. It references the previous snapshot and only copies the 4 new gigabytes of modified blocks. Because you are only charged for the newly changed data blocks, you can run automated backups without paying to duplicate the same static files over and over. These snapshots completely decouple your data from its physical hardware. If an entire availability zone fails, you can use that snapshot to instantly resurrect your server's exact memory state onto a new volume anywhere else in the region. You have now completed the sequence: provisioning a volume, matching geographic zones, attaching it to a live server, and configuring an incremental backup strategy. Your dashboard confirms a secure architecture, a running cloud server successfully tethered to a secondary persistent drive with a completed point-in-time snapshot safely stored. The required next step happens outside the AWS console. You will need to log into the server's operating system to format this raw block storage and mount the drive. By completing this setup, you have engineered a resilient, dynamically scalable, and cost-optimized foundation ready to support any enterprise application.
Let's dive right into this explainer where we're going to completely master Amazon EBS snapshots. Whether you're an AWS beginner, a cloud engineer, or you're gearing up for that solutions architect certification, knowing how to protect your block storage is absolutely crucial. Today, we're taking you all the way from the basic fundamentals straight up to designing a rock-solid, enterprise-grade disaster recovery architecture. So picture this for a second. Your primary production database running on an EC2 instance crashes right now. Ask yourself, could you recover that data in minutes? What if an entire data center went dark? Could you restore your app in a totally different AWS region? And maybe the scariest one, is your data truly safe from ransomware? Well, if you're a little unsure, don't sweat it. The solution to literally all of these challenges is Amazon EBS Snapshots. Here's our roadmap for the explainer. We'll quickly cover the snapshot fundamentals, jump into incremental magic and recovery, look at automating your backups, tackle disaster recovery and security, break down FSR and cost optimization, and then wrap up with a real-world architect's design discussion. Okay, Section 1, the snapshot fundamentals.
You already know every EC2 instance uses an elastic block store or EBS volume as its persistent virtual hard drive. But how do we actually back that up? Well, that's exactly where an Amazon EBS snapshot comes into play. It's basically a point-in-time backup of your volume, and it gets stored highly durably over an Amazon S3. Honestly, just think of a snapshot like a saved game checkpoint for your server. No matter what goes completely haywire, it captures the exact state of your data at that specific second, so you can always just roll back to it. Now, if you're an aspiring solutions architect, pay attention here, because this is a massive pillar of the AWS shared responsibility model. AWS provides the incredibly durable infrastructure, right? They make sure the physical servers are humming along, but backing up the actual data sitting on that EBS volume, yeah, that is 100% on you. Out of the box, AWS doesn't just magically back it up for you.
Moving right along to Section 2, incremental magic and recovery. If you're taking a backup every single day, you might be thinking you're paying for a massive full-size file every time, but thankfully you aren't. While your very first snapshot is a full backup of the entire volume, every snapshot after that is incremental. It only saves the specific data blocks that actually changed. So let's say you have a 100 gigabyte volume. Day 1, your snapshot is 100 gigabytes. But on day 2, you only tweak about 2 gigabytes of data. Your next snapshot only stores and, more importantly, only bills you for those 2 gigabytes. It's an absolute game changer for reducing backup times and keeping your S3 costs way down. And when disaster inevitably strikes, getting things back online is wonderfully simple. You just select your completed snapshot, create a brand new ABS volume from it, and here's a cool trick. You can spin it up in whichever availability zone you happen to need at that moment, and then just attach that new volume directly to your running EC2 instance. Boom, your data is back. Let's hit Section 3, automating your backups.
You definitely don't want to be doing this manually, so AWS gives us 2 awesome tools to put this on autopilot. First is Amazon Data Lifecycle Manager, or DLM. You'll want to use this for targeted EC2 and EBS workloads to set up daily, weekly, or monthly retention schedules just by using resource tags. But if you're running a massive enterprise architecture, you're going to want AWS Backup.
It gives you centralized protection not just for EBS, but for your RDS databases, EFS file systems, and S3 buckets, all from one clean compliance dashboard. Now, complex databases are kind of tricky because they usually span across multiple EBS volumes. If you just take separate uncoordinated snapshots, your restored database is probably going to be corrupted. To fix this, DLM actually integrates with AWS Systems Manager. It triggers prescripts that temporarily freeze and flush your input-output operations, takes a perfectly unified crash-consistent snapshot across all the volumes at once, and then runs a postscript to unfreeze everything. And if you're on Windows, it seamlessly hooks right into the volume shadow copy service. Next up, Section 4, Disaster Recovery and Security. For a truly bulletproof disaster recovery strategy, we absolutely cannot leave our snapshots sitting in just our primary region. We need to automate cross-region snapshot copies to a secondary location. That way, if the whole London region goes offline, we can easily spin up our app over in Virginia. Plus, we can share these snapshots across totally isolated AWS accounts, so if a hacker somehow compromises your primary account, your secondary backup account acts as an air-gapped vault holding an untouchable copy of your data. From a security angle, snapshots tie in flawlessly with the AWS Key Management Service, or KMS. The rule is super simple. An encrypted volume automatically creates an encrypted snapshot, and any volume you restore from that snapshot is automatically encrypted too. Just watch out for a really common real-world mistake. Never accidentally expose your snapshots to the public internet. Luckily, AWS has a block public access feature at the account level to stop that exact kind of data leak from happening. Moving to Section 5. FSR and cost optimization. Here is a pretty critical architectural quirk you need to know. When you restore a standard snapshot, it actually pulls the data down from S3 lazily. That means the very first time your app tries to read a block of data, you're going to get hit with latency. And for a mission-critical database, that slow warm-up period is just completely unacceptable. The fix is Fast Snapshot Restore, or FSR. By turning on FSR, AWS fully initializes the volume the moment it's created, giving you instant, fully provisioned performance the second your server boots up. Of course, hoarding all these snapshots gets expensive pretty fast. That's why the EBS Snapshot Archive tier is such a big deal. If you're dealing with strict compliance rules, like a government mandate saying you have to keep backups for 3 years, you don't actually need fast active access to them. So you move those old snapshots into the Archive tier, and you can literally slash your storage costs by up to 75%. But hold on, because there is a huge architectural gotcha here. Archiving an incremental snapshot instantly converts it into a full snapshot. Because you're moving it to cold storage, AWS has to pack all those referenced blocks together into one big file. That fundamentally changes how you're built. So you should really only use the archive tier when the massive drop in the per gigabyte price actually makes up for the sudden jump in the total gigabytes you're storing. All right, let's bring it all together in Section 6, the Architect's Design Discussion. If you really want to blow the minds of your interviewers for an AWS role, bring up EBS Direct APIs. Back in the day, to get data out of a snapshot, you had to spin up an EC2 instance, make a volume, attach it, and read the files manually. It was a whole process. But EBS Direct APIs let developers and third-party tools read and write snapshot blocks straight to S3 without ever touching an EC2 instance. It unlocks super advanced change block tracking, making offsite migrations and custom backups ridiculously fast. So if someone asks you to design a highly resilient DR architecture, here is exactly what you say. We use Data Lifecycle Manager to snap every 15 minutes, which nails our recovery point objective. We toggle on fast snapshot restore, so our recovery time objective is under 30 minutes with zero latency. We automate cross-region copies to Virginia for geographic redundancy. We slap AWS Backup Vault Lock on there to make our backups completely immutable to ransomware. And finally, we push anything older than 90 days to the archive tier to save a ton of money. That right there is a flawless, well-architected solution. If you're prepping for AWS interviews, grabbing those certifications, or stepping into cloud architecture and DevOps roles, truly understanding EBS snapshots isn't optional, it's essential. I highly recommend subscribing to Naveen Tech Hub for more practical AWS architecture deep dives, cloud design tips, and real-world technical tutorials just like this explainer. As you take a hard look at your own cloud architecture today, I want to leave you with one final thought. Your infrastructure is only as resilient as your latest backup. So, are your mission-critical applications actually protected?